Hey guys, welcome back to another Fidelity investing video here on Matt Money channel. So now we're just going to walk through specifically how to actually do some analytics and figuring out and comparing some stocks together to figure out if you want to say buy an ETF or buy an individual security, how you can go about doing that and utilizing Fidelity's interface to do that and make sure you're kind of getting the right research in. Are you doing your due diligence, I guess is always what I like to say. So by this point, you've hopefully seen how you can actually do your account and set it up. Now you've actually seen how you can do some dividend reinvestments. I made a video recently, not in this particular time frame, but about 3 to 4 months ago, how to actually buy an individual stock or sell an individual stock. So hopefully you have that ability to pull that one up for you guys as well if you're interested in seeing that. Now let's talk a little bit about specifically how you can do some quick research. So in this upper hand toolbar, you obviously have your accounts and trade, planning and advice, news and research, products, why Fidelity, all that sort of jazz. What we're going to be talking about is specifically stocks, ETFs, fixed income, and these mutual fund sort of area. Options, if you guys are interested, I actually made an options video talking about this in my, I guess, passiveincomeeducation.com course. And so if you guys are interested in that, I'll leave a link down in the description below for you guys to look it up. It's about an hour and 15-minute course, so a lot more in depth than what we're kind of going through here. And so if you're new to investing in stocks, there's some stocks courses in there as well. But options particularly, if you're interested, hour and 15-minute course for it's like $2 to $3 or something like that. It's really cheap. So specifically we want to talk about stocks today. So looking at stocks and figuring out how you can do some quick research. So here's a quick video for you guys to do so, and immediately if you click on stocks research, it's going to bring up this sort of user interface. And so what this is basically allowing you to do is slice and dice these positions any way you want. You can see on the left hand side there's like a bunch of different things here, whether it's research firms, whether it's calendars, whether it's a way to kind of screen stocks, which we'll kind of touch in as well. And then down here in the middle, you can kind of see the different sectors and what they're kind of looking at right now, and the top companies in each individual sector. Not really sure how they're kind of evaluating it. I guess is this based off of score from additional companies or advisors at the moment that they're kind of looking at. And so you can kind of see the different companies that they have listed for each individual sector if you guys are interested in that at the moment. You have different items here that kind of get written up for specific events like earnings, dividends, splits, all that jazz. And you can kind of do some quick I guess slices here by sector, capitalization, dividend yield, equity and summary score. And then you can specifically look at what company is being bought by Fidelity customers. So you can kind of see specifically right off the top what companies are kind of the highest ones being traded, and then which ones are kind of being moved from a market perspective just based off of what's kind of here. So yeah, you can see 90-day average, sentiment, all that jazz of what might be pertinent to you. And obviously there's no trading going on today because it's Memorial Day, but in a normal day you can see that you have some other things that would kind of show up. Let's specifically look at a quick way that you can do some research, right? So if you pop open this one, you can start adding in a whole bunch of things to do some finer details. So let's just take a quick look at, let's just say ABBV. You can do this multitude of ways. You can do this by just clicking in this box up here, or you can do it by kind of coming into this as well. But this allows you to kind of pull it up and see some quick information on, say, AbbVie, and do a little bit more research as well. So you can kind of scroll things over, see some items in here, what kind of revenue they're looking at. This is Cedro Partners. Let's go back to AbbVie. So look at AbbVie, you can see the total revenue it's expected, how many shares are outstanding, what their earnings track record is, what sort of dividend they're kind of paying as well. And so like I said, this is kind of like a really quick sort of look that you can do. What kind of ratings are expected for, say, AbbVie. You can pull that up as well in this little account here. And kind of see what stocks you have in your particular area and what ranking they kind of have. So who wants to buy them, who wants to sell them, and who doesn't have any sort of ranking on them at all. So you can kind of see, are you investing in things that nobody else really wants right now, or people are swing trading out of? Where I generally speaking use a lot of this research here is under the stock screeners part of this, and I think I've covered it in a previous video, but I think that this is really useful for folks, specifically if you have a certain criteria in mind, like price to book or dividend yield or whatnot, and you can kind of use this to to do a bunch of different screenings and make sure that you're buying the appropriate stock. Find things that you might have even forgot about, because when you're just kind of being like, hey, what am I looking for? There's literally thousands upon thousands of companies that you can kind of look for. And just because you've heard of a company before, let's take GE for example, doesn't mean necessarily that it's the best stock to invest in. It might have a great product, but unfortunately it might not be well run, might be overcapitalized, might be too leveraged, and so unfortunately they might be in a bad shape financially, like in the case of GE, but at the same time they might put out a great product. So just because a company has a great product doesn't necessarily mean it's the right company to invest in. So kind of keep that in mind if you're kind of new to investing as well. But there's a whole different idea and strategies and a whole bunch of different ways that you can invest. And so I'm not going to particularly try to drive you into one particular way, because I am a buy and hold mostly investor, but I am getting a little bit more into growth, long-term growth, and that aspect of things, as I try to kind of pull back a little bit on my dividend aspect of things and really try to grow another avenue of investing. Whether that's online businesses or YouTube or what have you. So you can really take this and kind of say, okay, well, what theme am I looking for? Am I looking for data? Am I looking for fintech? Am I looking for, a whole bunch of other things? Alcohol, founders companies, natural foods, pharmaceuticals, certain themes that you can invest in. But let's just take, for example, that we want to look at strategies. We want to look at, say, value companies. So making sure that they have a good value. You can continue to look at a whole bunch of different things here, or you can go over here to the left and kind of create your own sort of key criteria moment that you want, right? Are you going to say you want something with a dividend yield of, let's just say, no more than 4%, because that's really, let's just say, where you kind of cut off the criteria. So now that you kind of have dividend growth kind of being in there, dividend yield being in there, you want to make sure that it was positive over the last, let's just say, 52 weeks. And so we're going to go 0%. And what this will do is say, okay, all the companies that are positive in terms of return and have a yield below 4%. Now you can kind of see here, and let's just say you want to highlight specifically the companies that have the 4% yield and have been positive in terms of performance over the past 52 weeks. Now you can kind of say, okay, well, now we have these sort of companies here that you can look at. Are these the ones that I want to, say, invest in? Maybe you like them, maybe you don't, maybe you think it's a scam. It is what it is. So also, if you have, let's just say, a price to earnings ratio, so you want to make sure that it's not necessarily something that is, say, too overvalued right now in terms of the price to earnings ratio. You could say, hey, I don't want to invest anything that has an earnings ratio of over 30, right? So you think paying 30 years earnings for a stock is way too much, right? So that would then go in and eliminate some additional positions. So it really is allowing you to understand, what you're investing in and what criteria you want to put in. But what I would suggest is kind of being lenient with what you're kind of putting into it, because sometimes criteria can be kind of misleading sometimes, especially price to earnings and stuff like that. But let's just take, for instance, you want to do a little bit more information and research with a company. Let's stick with the trend of AbbVie, because a lot of my videos nowadays and courses stick around AbbVie because it is one of the first few positions in my portfolio. It generally shows up at the very tippy top because it starts with A. But let's specifically look at AbbVie. So ABBV. We'll open it up. Appreciate that my internet is being extremely slow today. So this is a different way. You can just type it up in the upper right hand corner and type AbbVie, and you get this whole laundry list of a bunch of different things in here. So hopefully with some time you'll be able to learn what criteria is important for you, because not all criteria is important for everybody. But in here you'll get a chart of what the the actual growth looks like over, say, the past year, 2 years, what have you. And you'll be able to kind of look back and compare it to things if you want. So you can come in here and compare it to the S&P 500, or you can come in here and look at a whole bunch of other things. 1 year history, are people bullish on it? Are they changing their opinion over the past couple months, or what? You can see how they've returned in terms of earnings, dividends, earnings per share, getting a little bit more in depth with, what kind of earnings power and potential this company has, and then specific events. So you can see a whole bunch of crap in here that might be important to you or it might not be. You know what I mean? It's very dependent on what you're looking for in your particular area. What I will suggest for you guys though is definitely coming down to this more research button. Don't really mess too much with this research reports button, but key statistics is kind of cool because there are some other different things that you can kind of look at. In terms of like price to earnings with respect to growth and things like that isn't necessarily covered under this main page. But what I like to do for sure is look at these financial statements pages and really get a deeper dive into how the company's financials really look, because the earnings metrics and stuff like that can sometimes skew the way that you might look at an organization. You might say, oh, well, maybe it's showing XYZ in terms of the price to earnings ratio, but they had a really big one-off tax item or a liability that they kind of had to write off, or something like that would manipulate the earnings in a positive or negative direction. And that could potentially say, well, that threw the price to earnings ratio off by a factor of 50%. Seems really cheap, or it seems really expensive right now, depending on if the earnings was manipulated positively or negatively with that write-off or up reevaluation of the asset or liability. So keep that in mind. You know what I mean? Cash flow is a huge statement for me that I really truly like to look at. And of course, if you guys are interested, we do have a cash flow video that you guys can utilize to get an understanding. I think it's like a 45-minute long video that my buddy Kyle put together, and it's like $1 or $2. So really useful that people can utilize to really see how to evaluate a cash flow statement and income statement, balance sheet, to understand is the company in good financial health from a numbers perspective, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean because it's got a good balance sheet that it's a good investment. So keep in mind that they're kind of separated, but sometimes they are correlated. And obviously you don't want to invest in a company with a bad balance sheet and a bad financials, because of course they can go belly up. And generally speaking, when a company goes belly up, the stock responds. But just because a company is making a lot of money doesn't necessarily respond. And just because a company isn't belly up doesn't mean the stock always is in the same as well. So look at Tesla. It was not making a lot of money for a long time. Now that they're making money, they're obviously hugely popular in the stock market. But at the same time, the cash flow statement shows that they still got a decent amount of debt, all that jazz. But the stock price and the financials don't necessarily tie hand in hand. But at the same time, they can correlate that you're investing into a good company. So if you're buy and hold investor like myself, it can be something that's pretty worthwhile to look at. So really hope that this was useful for you guys. If you guys have any questions from a Fidelity perspective, reach out to me. Of course, if you guys are interested, I have a WhatsApp group, I have a Facebook group that are also going to be in the description below. So if you're not already part of our WhatsApp group, we have about 65 to 70 people in there that chat pretty regularly on a daily basis about anything. The other day, the topic of discussion was credit cards. Today, they're talking about choosing what stocks of basically monthly paying dividend stocks is up year to date compared to, say, the S&P 500. And I forget what it was. What else was it? There's like a third criteria, and they're trying to figure out which one it is. Kyle, my buddy from Passive Income Investor, posed the challenge today. So cool little things like that we talk about in that group. And so if you're interested in joining, just message me on WhatsApp. Via WhatsApp is the only way you can communicate with me on this particular phone, using +1 868 769 0511, and that number again is +1 868-769-0511, and hopefully we'll have it down in the description for you as well. So love hearing from you guys. I'll talk to you guys soon on the next video. Let me know if this was helpful or if there's any other things in Fidelity you guys want to see. This was like a 3-part little trio, just did some quick one-offs here. And so if you guys see any other videos that you guys want me to do specifically for Fidelity, let me know. I'd be more than happy to really get it going for you guys, so you guys can continue to build out your portfolio. So thanks guys, I'll talk to you guys on the next video. Cheers.